very good afternoon to all distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, students, and INSA colleagues. It is a great honor to welcome you to the prestigious INSA Distinguished Public Lecture Series. We are blessed to have our fellow and Padma Shri awardee, Professor Balram Bhargava, Chief, Cardiothoracic Center, AIIMS, New Delhi, to illuminate us on India's fight against Covid-19. I would extend a warm welcome and request Executive Director INSA, Dr. Brijesh Pandey, to invite Dr. Professor Bhargava and Professor N.K. Mehra to the dais. May I request the dignitaries to kindly step forward and perform the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. I now request INSA Vice President of International Affairs and former Dean, Department of Transplant and Immunology and Immunogenetics, AIIMS, New Delhi, Professor N.K. Mehra, to introduce and extend a hearty welcome to our guest.
Thank you very much. And at the outset, I want to welcome you all to this hall on behalf of the President of INSA, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma, who's unfortunately not able to come today, so I'm deputizing for him. The Indian National Science Academy has started the distinguished lecture series, actually. The first one was done on September 26th by no other than Dr. Somnath, who has been very rightly called as the Chandrayaan man of India. He was the man behind the successful launching of the Chandrayaan. And we're very happy today to welcome amongst us Dr. Balram Bhargava. And Balram is known to everybody. Of course, I have been associated with him for nearly 4 decades in AIIMS. Eminent cardiologist, wonderful cardiologist. In fact, my own family, everybody goes to him only. But a very astute scientist as well. He's a great example of a physician scientist. During his time, and I remember maybe it is 2007, Balram, you might have to correct me the year, 2007, you started that collaboration, the unique collaboration between Stanford University, AIIMS and IIT Delhi, called as the Stanford Biodesign. And the main purpose of that was to develop innovators, to encourage the young scientists around the country to do innovation there. And they were themselves also trying this innovation. They were trying to create heart valves. The valves that we need for heart are not available. And everybody said, wow, how can you do it over here? And I think Balram is one of those who believes in doing those things which others say cannot be done. And therefore, I would urge the young scientists at the back, follow his career, scientific career, this is an inspirational career for you people. I don't know how many of you have seen the film Vaccine War. Oh, very few hands. Yeah, I was also very disappointed when I went to see the film in the hall. There were not too many people were there. Balram has been working in AIIMS for all these years, right from the time when he joined the institute. Then we sent him on loan to ICMR. He was the Director General of the ICMR and the Secretary of the Department of Health Research. And he had never even thought of it in his dreams that during my time the pandemic will come. And you know, that pandemic brought in him this scientist that he is and the administrator that he is. It's only due to this twin quality that he had that India was able to make its own indigenous vaccine. India's first indigenous vaccine. And you know, the whole world was stunned. Stunned to the extent that we were, you know, these guys had to face a lot of difficulties as well in getting the approvals on time, but finally the approvals came. And that was the time when also there were other platforms as well. You have learned about the mRNAs and all, you know, all of those things. But they were really focusing on the indigenous vaccine, the good old system of getting the whole virus, the whole virion there. And how he galvanized the teams at the ICMR headquarters, at the National Institute of Virology, which is an institution of the ICMR, and developing that academia industry partnership with Bharat Biotech, and they came up with this very effective vaccine over there. And today, after 2 or 3 years, when I keep following, you know, the follow-up of these vaccines over there, Covaxin stands right on the top as the safest vaccine that India had. And India not only made the vaccine for us, but also gave it to others as well. In Vaccine War, his whole story is there, you know, played by Nana Patekar. But I'm sure you will agree with me that the real Balram Bhargava looks smarter and much smarter and much younger than the one that you saw in the film. I have been associated with him, as I said, 3 to 4 decades. I've always found him smiling like he does now, and very helping. Is extremely helpful. Any of you can just walk into his office and say that I need your help for so-and-so thing, and he'll be there to do that. These are the qualities of a really great scientist. Scientist come academician, come administrator. I really don't want to stand between you and him. You're going to hear the real vaccine war and the real war that India waged. I must also tell you that in medical sciences, generally a vaccine takes about 10 years or so, or maybe 20 years. A lot of vaccines it took 20 years. The minimum time was for MMR, which was made in 4.5 years or so. This vaccine came in months, in a matter of months. Necessity is the need for invention, but then you need men behind it, you need the teams behind it, and you need a leader there who can really galvanize the team. That's what you're going to see in Balram Bhargava. Balram, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. अच्छा, ये पहले करना है?
हाँ जी।
मैं चाह सकता हूँ लेक्चर बिना
ये इसके बाद भी बहुत कुछ है। ये बाद में देखिए।
Ladies and gentlemen, the stage is now set for much anticipated lecture. I now invite Padma Shri awardee Professor Balram Bhargava to enlighten us with the profound insights on India's fight against Covid-19.
Thank you, luminaries and dignitaries, students, friends. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Mehra for his very, very kind words. I do not know whether I can live up to the way he has praised me and the positive things that he has said about me. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being so kind to me. What I will do is, before I start the lecture, I will show a small trailer of vaccine war, so as to introduce the subject, and then we will discuss after that some. Any audio नहीं आ रहा? Audio नहीं आ रहा आपका?
ये प्रोजेक्ट टॉप सीक्रेट रहेगा फॉर नेशनल सिक्योरिटी।
शुरू से करें।
क्या इंडिया का मेडिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर 130 करोड़ लोगों की जान बचाने में समर्थ है? तो अगर एक्सपर्ट्स की बात मानी जाए, नो। इंडिया का
कौन सा? यही वाला है, शुरू से करो। आ रहा है? नहीं आ रहा?
हाँ, सुना मैंने क्या हुआ। आपके साइंटिस्ट के पास 1 लाख रुपए भी नहीं थे।
मेरे नहीं सर, भारत के साइंटिस्ट।
मैंने फैसला किया हम वैक्सीन बनाएंगे। तब तक हमारे लिए ये प्रोजेक्ट टॉप सीक्रेट रहेगा फॉर नेशनल सिक्योरिटी।
क्या इंडिया का मेडिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर 130 करोड़ लोगों की जान बचाने में समर्थ है? तो अगर एक्सपर्ट्स की बात मानी जाए, नो। इंडिया कांट डू इट।
इंडिया कांट डू इट, ये नैरेटिव कौन बना रहे हैं एंड व्हाई?
हमें ये लड़ाई नहीं लड़नी, हमारी लड़ाई वायरस के साथ।
क्या ये वायरस नेचुरल म्यूटेशन है
या रिवर्स इंजीनियरिंग से लैब में बनाया गया है?
वैक्सीन 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 के अलावा भी हमारी कोई लाइफ है।
वैक्सीन नहीं है ना तो लाइफ ही नहीं है।
सृष्टि से पहले सद नहीं था, असद भी नहीं, अंतरिक्ष भी नहीं, आकाश भी नहीं था।
You're not going to die, girls. We are scientists. You know, हमारे लैब में हम लोग इतनी सारी औरतें क्यों? Because we are brave. We can do it.
वॉर है ये, और हम सब सोल्जर्स। सोल्जर का काम होता है कमांड लेना। किसकी कमांड? अपने जनरल की। कौन है आपका जनरल? इधर देखो, आज के बाद अर्जुन की तरह हमें सिर्फ मछली की आंख दिखनी चाहिए। सिर्फ मछली की आंख।
एक राजा था, जो भी कर लो मरता ही नहीं था। उस राजा की जान एक तोते की गर्दन में अटकी है। तोते की गर्दन मरोड़ दी और राजा मर गया। हमारे राजा की जान इस वैक्सीन में अटकी।
अब बताओ वैक्सीन बनेगी या नहीं?
सर बहुत जल्दी बनेगी, सबसे पहले बनेगी और सबसे ज्यादा सुरक्षित बनेगी। भारत की एकमात्र इंडिजिनस वैक्सीन, भारत की अपनी वैक्सीन।
So, sorry, where is this PowerPoint?
This is the folder, right?
Yeah,
This one?
yeah. Go from the beginning. So this is till she fixes it. This is the story. क्या यार तुम्हारा ये भी नहीं माइक चल रहा है तुम्हारा, कैसे पड़ेगी वैक्सीन? Okay, good, good. So till we start on the PowerPoint, this movie is now available on Disney Hotstar, so everyone can watch it in the warmth of their bedrooms and see it in this cold weather and enjoy it. It has portrayed me as a tough martinet, which I don't think I am. I am not that tough. However, I think it is very emotional and a captivating movie, particularly for scientists and people who are even this much connected with the scientific community. Why I'm saying that is that you will not stop till the movie is finished, although it is 2 hours and 40 minutes. The director has done justice, and the lead player has also done justice, and it has been the efforts of Dr. Rajnikant, who was able to coordinate, and Dr. Mukesh, who's also here from ICMR. They were able to coordinate this movie to be made by ICMR and by Mr. Vivek Agnihotri. So I think it glorifies science, it glorifies India, and I think we should cherish it and enjoy it as much as we can. So before that, I will now try to give you a story of what is ICMR and why we got into it and why ICMR got into it and how we had the struggles. And so I'll take around 40 minutes. It's 3:25. I should be done by 4 o'clock, hopefully. So this is ICMR, which was one of the oldest scientific bodies, founded in 1911, and it was established as an Indian research fund and to formulate and translate medical innovation and products and processes into the public health system. So this organization has been at the forefront of leading our war against various epidemics and now this pandemic. In 1918, the Beriberi inquiry was done, then the malaria survey was done by this organization. Ronald Ross was associated with this organization, he got the Nobel Prize. Then the Kala-Azar cycle was again documented through this organization, and Leishmania Donovan got the Nobel Prize for that in 1942. Then we had the domiciliary short-term treatment for tuberculosis, the first oral polio vaccine in 1963, then oral rehydration therapy. Then some of the excellent directors of NIN talked about how protein energy malnutrition was a myth and how India is to fight with it. So that initial work, which had tremendous amount of public health applications, was done there. And then India's first test tube baby, and then double fortified salt for preventing goiter, and then now we are working on triple fortified salt for fighting leishmaniac filariasis and working along with that. So these are the major small innovations which have a large public health impact for society and have been done by this organization, which has 27 institutes across India, north to south, east to west, with 50 field stations and more than 850 scientists now. 850 scientists working in this organization who have been at the forefront of fighting this COVID pandemic as well. So how myself as a cardiologist, how I got into this, we did not know how big the beast is. We did not know the behavior or the biology of this beast. But what, ये क्या हो रहा है बार-बार? Yeah, okay. Is that okay? Yeah. So what happened was that the first patient of COVID-19 was a young girl who was a medical student. Okay. So the first patient was a patient of a young girl. I think it's better here. It's better here. A young girl who was a medical student from Wuhan. Now she had come from Wuhan, and this is, I'm talking about the first case of COVID in China occurred in December of 2019. On 31st of December 2020, China declared to the world that there is a mysterious virus which is creating problems. We do not know much about it. And then this was declared on the 31st of December 2019. Now on the 7th of January of 2020, the Ministry of Health swung into action, and there was a meeting, an emergency meeting, that we have to start screening at the airports. And this screening started on the 7th of January of 2020. on 26th of fine. On 26th of January, we had one patient which I talked about, the index patient 0, who is a young medical student, traveled from Wuhan to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Calcutta, Calcutta to Bangalore, Bangalore to Cochin, and then by bus to her hometown. She was detected with fever, confirmed as a case of COVID on the 27th of January. We did not declare it to the government till we took a sample from her and sent it to the National Institute of Virology in Pune, confirmed the diagnosis, and on 28th we declared it to the government that the virus has entered the shores of this country and we need to be careful. After that, since ICMR, National Institute of Virology, had done this, we got into this whole game that ICMR has only one laboratory which is doing PCR testing for viruses. This needs to be scaled up, and then the government constituted several groups of secretaries. Each one was reporting to the cabinet secretary every day, and there's a group of secretaries for vaccines, there's a group of secretary for oxygen, for PPE, for masks, for quarantine centers, for hospital ICU beds, for drugs, and also for public health, airports, surveillance, several things, groups were created. All these groups were reporting to the group of ministers. So this was started in the first week of February, and we were meeting regularly. The biggest advantage that we had was that the pandemic in India was about 3 months late. What happened in United Kingdom, what happened in Sweden, what happened in Italy, what happened in Spain, what happened in Iran, they were burning in the months of January, February, and people were dying like 9 pins at that point in time. We got time for those 2-3 months before the pandemic really took over in our country. So that time we decided that we have to work together, and the government was serious from the very beginning. Our leadership, with his excellent communication skills, took all the chief ministers along. He had video conferences with them every 2 weeks. He had physical meetings initially in the months of February and March, and then video conferences with them every 2 weeks. With more than 30 meetings was held with all chief ministers, and the whole of government approach, which was calibrated with proactive and preemptive, and we did not embrace herd immunity at all, because we had seen the crisis of herd immunity in the United Kingdom, where people died, in Sweden, where lots of people died because they said, let us expose ourselves to the virus and get, but that did not work in Spain, did not work in Italy, did not work in Sweden. So we could learn from their lessons, and therefore that advantage we had of it. So the 10 major highlights of COVID that the ICMR did was, one was that we scaled up countrywide testing from one laboratory to more than 3,500 laboratories for PCR within a matter of weeks to months. Validation of diagnostic kits, and in the month of February, March, we were pleading to WHO to give us kits. They gave us 10,000 kits for a population of 1.4 billion. We asked China, they gave us kits. They said, buy them in the next 2 hours, otherwise we'll divert them to some other country. And many of them were faulty as well. We all know, and we have read about that. So it was the youngsters like you people who were responsible for having their startups and develop these kits in the month of March and April, that India became self-sufficient in testing kits. And we were exporting kits by July, August to many parts of the world. So I think this is the strength of our country, with a young population who have innovative mindset, genetically endowed to be innovative, have been able to develop this, and that worked phenomenally well. Then the nationwide sero survey, I'll talk about it. Then indigenous vaccine, Dr. Mehra has talked about it. I'll talk a little bit more about it. And then several publications, more than 350 publications. Then various guidelines, social behavior research, and delivery by drone. So here again, I would like to pay tribute and also give high regard to my predecessors at ICMR, who had the vision, who had the vision to develop a BSL-4 laboratory in Pune. This laboratory was set up in 2011. It was the first BSL-4 laboratory in the Southeast Asia region. The Wuhan lab was the second lab developed in Southeast Asia region in 2017. So we were ahead of the game as far as China was concerned, much before in terms of having repositories for dangerous viruses to be stored, and also have a laboratory of that grade. So since 2011, viral samples were not being sent out of India for testing. So that was a huge self-sufficiency that was achieved. And then, and here we can see in this photograph, our late president visiting that lab. This lab is, if you ever visit that city, I would advise you to try to find time to go there. It is electrical wire fencing. You have to take special permission, but you can go inside it, and negative pressure, state-of-the-art facility. You will feel that you're in some very, very developed part of the world. Also indigenously developed this whole BSL-4 laboratory. So then comes to the virus isolation. Now, if you remember, there were about, in the month of February, March, we had a lot of time because we were learning for what is happening in the Western world. So we had about 15 Italian tourists who were visiting us. They were traveling from Rajasthan, Udaipur and Agra and the same triangle. So whilst they were at Agra, they got fever. So they were shifted to Delhi, and we could get their samples. Once we got their samples, because we were asking WHO for the virus, because once we have the virus, then we can develop kits, we can develop vaccines, we can develop antibodies, we can do all kinds of things. But the problem was that we didn't have cases at that time, except that one index case, which was a medical student. Then 15 cases came, this Italian tourist. So we took out all their samples, and from that samples, we were able to isolate the virus. And we were the 5th country in the world to isolate the virus. We asked WHO for the virus. We asked several agencies, international agencies, please give us the virus. No one gave us the virus. So we got the virus from ourselves, which was grown at Pune. And then we have done electron microscopy. And this was on the 9th of March, we isolated the virus. We gave the virus on the 31st of March to Bharat Biotech as a matter of partnership to develop the vaccine. They gave us the vaccine on the end of April. 3 vaccine candidates, which we tested later on in rats, mice, and hamsters and monkeys. I'll come to that story later. We were the first country in the world to culture the alpha virus. And then we also were able to culture beta, delta, and the Omicron, and also prepare our vaccines accordingly. Now coming back to testing, because testing kits was an issue and there were limited facilities of RT-PCR. So in the months of February, March, we had RT-PCR and we were only testing some travelers and some healthcare workers and the respiratory infection patients. What we did, interestingly, again, our scientists, Indian Institute of Science had 2 scientists who developed a company for tuberculosis and they developed a product called TrueNat. This is a portable molecular diagnostics which India had developed. They developed it in 2010. They were funded by DBT, funded by DST, funded by CSIR. Later on, they came to us for the clinical trial. We did the clinical trial and got a WHO pre-qualification in 2017-18 for this TrueNat for TB testing. And once this was again in 2017-18, purchased in several states, more in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and other parts, where they got a lot of these TrueNat machines. Now, in the month of March, April, we repurposed this TrueNat machine, which were already there for COVID testing. And we were the first country in the world to develop this molecular, portable, battery-operated testing machine, which could test for COVID-19. And we had already had 8,000 such machines across India, so they were immediately deployed for COVID testing. The UK developed their machine in September, October of 2020 called DNA Nudge. So again, we were ahead of many parts of the world in terms of developing our testing. This was in April of 2020. In June, when we had the first wave in Delhi, during the lockdown, we were the second country after Korea to use the rapid antigen test. And again, many of our youngsters developed startups to make those rapid antigen tests for testing, and they were used in this, and then the WHO approved rapid antigen testing in September, October. We had already started using them. So the molecular tests, we had more than 3,300 labs. We had the number of tests being done were more than what WHO had said, 10 times more. The cost of a rapid test was $2 compared to $200 to $500 in the Western world. A rapid antigen test was $1 per test, again because of the youngsters and the startups that developed, and most of our labs were working in 3 shifts testing this. We also, by a stroke of an order of the Gazette notification, were able to get BSL-2 laboratories in every of the 600 medical colleges. This was on 8th of June that we passed that order that every medical college should have a BSL-2 laboratory, and they immediately set that up. Now comes the story of the lockdown. Here I will give you a little anecdote. So February, March, group of secretaries meeting regularly, group of ministers meeting. We are pushing, please stop travel, please stop travel. They are listening partly. Maybe China, they stopped a little bit of Italy, a little bit from, but they did not stop all international travel. So we kept on pushing. And then once we had those 15 Italian tourists, and then in the 10th of March, was asked by the cabinet secretary that, can you give us your recommendation for travel or whatever you want for this pandemic for the country? So we had discussions in ICMR, and we had a national task force. We gave 2 lines written on it, 1 A4 sheet: stop all international travel and impose country-wise lockdown. Just 2 lines, so that our healthcare facilities can be improved, and we can distribute the curve of cases over several months, so that our facility. This was on 10th of March. We had a discussion with the cabinet secretary. He says, you people seem to have tremendous clarity of thought. I said, yes, in science we have a lot of clarity of thought, and we don't mix around. And so he said, okay, you have to make a presentation to the leadership next week. 18th of March, we made a presentation to the leadership, 5 slides, and the leadership listened, and he said, do only by science. I don't want anything to be messed around. It has to be led by science. He said, will our curve go like this? I said, yes. But if we do a lockdown, we can distribute it, but it will still be there. I further told him that we belong to a generation of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. We can miss a meal, but we have to impose the lockdown. We have been working at All India Institute, where we didn't have air conditioning at that point in time. We used to come in the morning at 8 o'clock, wear a simple shirt. By the evening, it was wet with sweat, but I go home and take a shower and then come back next morning. He listened to all this. We told him on that very first day. He didn't say anything that he's going to do a lockdown. Next day, he did a public this thing, and 2 days later, a lockdown was imposed. Now, during the lockdown, what happened now? Again, ICMR was right in the center of this all. So, during this lockdown, on 9 weeks, the research analysis wing, the intelligence bureau, the Indian Air Force, Indian Railways, Indian Posts, everyone was in the ICMR headquarters. Now we had a guest house which was about 3 kilometers away, where we had 40 rooms. So we called 40 scientists from across the 27 institutes, and the local institute scientists all kept on coming, whether it was from all the 3 ICMR institutes in Delhi. They kept coming every day during the lockdown to the headquarters. Used to work till 12 in the midnight. Food was served there, lunch and dinner was arranged by the cafeteria, and they were working like captives in that place, and ensuring where kids have to be sent, where kids are not available. Full map and everything was being done in coordination with the Indian Air Force, the railways and everything. So this lockdown in India was a balanced one. We got time to scale up our healthcare facilities, to set up small temporary hospitals, to manufacture testing kits, and to manufacture several other things. Compared to what was there in China, which was a kind of a very dangerous sort of a lockdown, or in the West where no one bothered about the lockdown. Ours was Buddha's middle path kind of a lockdown, as I would say. And during the lockdown, we were we had taken the learnings from what was happening in the West in February, March, April, and assimilated that and tried to give guidelines that were relevant for our country, for our population. Another small story I want to tell is in February of 2020, we had about 6,000 of our Shia pilgrims who were visiting Iran. And at that time, Iran was really burning and people were dying there. So we were given a request that please try to get all of them back or test them. So now there was meeting of quarantine facilities, how to set up quarantine facilities. There was one set up at Hindon Air Force Base, one in Jabalpur, one in Jodhpur, one at Noida. So all these quarantine facilities were setting up quarantine facilities, food facilities there, blankets there. Month of February, everything was arranged by the ITBP, Indian Army, and that was done on a war footing at that point in time. But now these pilgrims, so 6 of our scientists were flown to Iran, scientists and technical officers, and they set up the lab for testing. They couldn't set it up in the city of Iran because if they set it up with Iran, they had lacked testing facilities, so they would say test our people first. So we set that lab quietly in the basement of the Indian embassy in Tehran. Got all the samples there, tested them. All those who were negative were flown the very next day, and those who were positive, we waited till they became negative and they were tested. They were flown by special flights, and such special flights were also arranged for evacuating some of our students from Wuhan as well as from Italy, and we also evacuated some students for other regional countries like Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, etc. Now, once COVID happened, there were no treatment available before the vaccine. I'm talking about February, March, April in the United Kingdom, in USA and other places. There were only 3 treatments that were successful. One was by United Kingdom, which showed that steroids or cortisone is working by a randomized trial. Second was the World Health Organization, which clearly demonstrated by a solidarity trial that remdesivir reduces the number of days of hospitalization. And third was a randomized trial done during the lockdown by video conferencing from ICMR with district hospitals, and clearly showed that convalescent plasma is not working. So these were the 3 major pharmacological treatments that happened before the vaccine developed. Rest came and went. Everyone had a treatment available for COVID-19. Everyone set istikar lo, havan kar lo, kaaj ko chida lo, puja kar lo, locket pen lo, all kinds of things were available. And each one of these things were backed by some senior parliamentarian or someone to please test them and get them tested, and it has to be done. That was another story which we can talk offline at some point in time and discuss how we had to tackle those, and that was done. So this was the 3 major, and this Placid trial was published in the British Medical Journal with 2 editorials. One clearly showing how India democratized research, where research was being done in small district hospitals which were never done research, but through video control from the ICMR headquarters, we were able to demonstrate this control. So this is the convalescent plasma story, where we randomized 464 patients, again, 22nd April to 14 July, during the lockdown, all under video control, discussing with them, and we were able to show that convalescent plasma, and convalescent plasma had a lot of social implications. We can use from an infected patient, get his blood somehow, infect someone to get his blood. All kinds of social issues could have happened. So fortunately, it did not work, so we were happy about that. Then once we had the virus, we had given it to Bharat Biotech. During the lockdown from Ahmedabad to Pune, we had several car journeys every 2nd or 3rd day, trying to create and set up the ELISA test. With several pharma agencies from Gujarat working with the National Institute of Virology. With the virus, they developed the ELISA kit, which was the first ELISA kit developed and which was used for serosurvey for testing. Again, 700 villages, 70 districts, 21 states. ICMR having such a huge footprint in all across India, there's some of the scientists and the technical officers would go with PPEs, with masks, collect blood samples. They were showered with petals whilst they were collecting those blood samples, and these blood samples was tested for serosurvey. And the serosurvey, the first serosurvey done during the lockdown in May and June, shows 0.7%. This had several implications. That means 99.3% of the Indian population is still vulnerable. So we are in the beginning, or really the start of the pandemic. This was given to the government, and the government was quite worried about it. And they said, should we talk? Should we publicly talk about it? We discussed and we said, once we talk publicly, we can explain the public to use masks, to prevent, to travel less, to move less. And that was used, this serosurvey data was used to promote these preventive strategies, and that worked quite well for us. And then several other serosurveys were done. They were all published in various journals across the country. Now coming to Covaxin, and I'm sure I have another 10 minutes and I will done that. This was first one of the major collaborations of private-public, as Dr. Mehra has mentioned, which was based on trust, transparency, most importantly, timeliness. Every morning at 10 o'clock, we had a VC with Bharat Biotech for 3 months, 2 to 3 months, till the vaccine was developed, till the clinical trials were done, till all of that was done, and mutual respect. So for development of vaccines, we had two routes. One was to leverage international science and try to get Covishield into India and test it on Indians, and then get it approved, and then scale it up, because we had the largest manufacturing facilities for Covishield. So that was leveraging international science. And the other approach was trying to develop and leverage our own science, and that was to develop our own vaccine. And that was to develop it by the classic method, killed virus vaccine. We asked Bharat Biotech to manufacture that vaccine. They gave us 3 candidates. On the 1st of May, we did some rat testings, and also in mice, and demonstrated and proved the safety, immunity, and the dosage from that. And these were published in the top journals in iScience with a cover story, because we had used a new adjuvant for the first time, and that was made it to the cover story of iScience, that a new adjuvant has been used for the first time. Then we had to do the preclinical, or a non-human primate study, or the monkey studies. Now, how do we do that? For the last 20-30 years, we've had large and very active animal activists who have killed primate research in this country as a whole. And that problem was felt at that point in time. So we got immediate permission from the Department of Animal Husbandry and the CPC SEA to do monkey trials. Many international agencies were talking about human challenge studies, that we should challenge humans and do them. Can we do it in populations from different countries? Which country? We'll put them on a ship so they don't belong to any country. All kinds of weird ideas will be coming up from various parts, and very powerful people and very powerful countries also, that we will do these human challenge studies. And a lot of press was thought of. We did not believe in that. Even today do not believe in human challenge for which a treatment is not available. So we said we'll go with the monkey way. And where do we get the monkeys from? Now we got all the permissions to capture the monkeys. Now to capture those monkeys, during the lockdown, we can't get them from the city because they didn't get food in the city, so they had gone to the forests. So we spent special team on Telangana border, Karnataka border from NIV, and they captured 24 monkeys in a matter of 1 to 2 weeks. And then they had to be tested for their health. So we had to buy an X-ray machine at NIV Pune. All the monkeys were taken to NIV Pune. By that time, I had captured those monkeys, and I received several phone calls from animal activists that Dr. Bhargava, I'm told that you're going to capture monkeys. I had already captured them, so I told them, no, I am not going to capture monkeys. Ashutama hato. I am not going to capture monkeys. I had already captured them. So that led the story to rest. Anyway, those monkeys were then, we had to now challenge them. So we gave them the vaccine, and then we had to give the virus by the bronchoscopy into their 3rd generation of their bronchioles in the lungs. So how do we get a pulmonologist? One pulmonologist, as a scientist, D, was flown by an Indian Air Force plane from Delhi headquarters to Pune. We contacted the Army CTC at Pune and asked one of their pulmonologists. Both of them were taken captive and put in the NIV guest house at Pune. For 1 month, they did the monkey experiments, staying in the guest house, eating there, doing everything. During that, they did anesthetize monkeys, did a bronchoscopy, gave them the virus. They had already vaccinated those monkeys. And then every day they did again bronchoscopy, did a bronchial lavage, took out the lavage whether the virus has grown or it is not grown. And so in these 20 monkeys, we were able to demonstrate that the virus has not grown. So we were convinced that this vaccine is working. And in 1947, we have here our first health minister, Srimati Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, with the High Commissioner of Canada at Bombay port, receiving a box from the High Commissioner of Canada. This was just after the Second World War, when penicillin was discovered. We were given a box of penicillin to India, which led to the development of Hindustan Antibiotics Limited, and then India started manufacturing penicillin. India became a superpower for manufacturing antibiotics, and that is the story in 1947. In 2021, we gave our vaccine to more than 100 countries, including Canada. So this is how the vaccine was developed, and the government support, right from funding to preclinical studies, to clinical studies, to laboratory studies, to epidemiological studies, to rolling review by the drug controller, to advanced purchase orders, to at-risk manufacturing, to raw material import, expedited batch testing, setting up facilities which were at Kasauli, Noida, Hyderabad, Pune, several other batch testing facilities were set up. So it was a lot of infrastructure was created, and we had approved our vaccine on the basis of phase 2 trials. A lot of press said, why on the basis of phase 2 trials? Our Gazette notification of 2019, before COVID pandemic, clearly states that when there is a life-threatening condition or serious disease, then the government has the power to use phase 2 to approve, and that is what we had leveraged for phase 2. So we also had made a national task force of 40 scientists, epidemiologists, pulmonologists, virologists, pharmacologists, and under the chairmanship of Professor Vinod Paul and the Health Secretary and myself. And this was notified to the Supreme Court on the 18th of March 2020, before the lockdown, that this is the task force which is going to be advising the government on newer testing. All kinds of oversight will be provided. We had management protocols which we have single page in 14 languages, and we had more than 350 publications. The ICMR, IGMR impact factor is 5.3 now. This journal was one of the highest impact factors of an Indian journal, and then pandemic fight against the face mask. There were several meetings, and we said that the face mask is a must and will be the last to go, and we still find some people even using them today. So I strongly congratulate them, because that is probably the best thing to do. So we know that vaccination prevents serious disease, and if we had 3 databases, I'll just take 3 minutes more. There are 3 databases. One was the COVID database, and here I want to tell a little story. And one was the ICMR testing database, and one was the Ministry of Health patient database when he was admitted and died. All 3 databases were not talking fully, but still 30-40% of the databases were talking, and we were able to demonstrate that 92% of the deaths during Omicron were because of people who were not vaccinated. So vaccination prevents death, prevents serious disease. It does not prevent the infection. That has to be very clear. Now, why I said COVID, I wanted to tell a story. We were presenting the COVID vaccination India, COVID, to the leadership, and he said, why you want to call it COVID? Make it COVWIN. Change the name from COVID. Immediately, in a matter of 5 seconds, he said, change the name to CoWin. We will win. So that is the kind of leadership we have, who is innovative and positive. That was it. So we had 28,000 cold chain points, 2.3 million ASHA workers, millions of doctors and nurses, 350,000 vaccination centers in the government, and 48,000 in the private who contributed to this vaccination program. And if you look at after the vaccination, if you look at the Omicron, India was far ahead in terms of positive cases, much lower than Brazil, Russia, United Kingdom, United States, Canada, South Africa. India was much smaller than all of them. In terms of the deaths during Omicron, India was again much smaller compared to all these countries, United States, Russia, Brazil, Canada, and this is world literature which is there. We also had, we had a Nipah outbreak in 2018, and at that time we had requested the person who had made the BSL-4 laboratory to make a BSL-3 laboratory, which can be mobile. It took him two years to make this laboratory during the lockdown, and he made a state-of-the-art BSL-3 laboratory, which is on wheels on a Mercedes-Benz chassis, and inside, if you go inside, it's like Apollo 11. It's like absolutely dull steel, all computerized, negative pressure, state-of-the-art equipment, all the effluent collection, everything is all there. What we did was, we have got 3 of them now. One is in Pune, one is in Kerala, and one is in Gorakhpur. And during the SARC meeting, I mean not the WHO CRO meeting, we drove it from Gorakhpur to Paro in Bhutan, and demonstrated it to all the health ministers of the Southeast Asia region, and they all wanted it. So we have requested the government to give a donation, once India's needs are satisfied, to give to these countries as part of soft diplomacy. Now last is iDrone, ICMR drone outreach for the Northeast. This is Bishnupur, and this is the Loktak Lake, the largest freshwater lake in Asia, in Manipur. And in that there is an island where there is a primary health center. So it is 26 kilometers by road, 3 kilometers by boat, and 2 kilometers by walking. So it would take about 3 hours to reach. So we delivered this vaccine first time in Southeast Asia region by drones, and much of the drone testing was done in IIT Kanpur, because they have a Air Force base, This was done, and we demonstrated that we can deliver the vaccine from hill to valley, from land to island, from island to island, from hill to hill, from land to foothill, foothill to land, valley to valley, and you can see this how it was delivered at Vishnupur to Karan.
Now the helicopter has landed. You'll see now there's a release mechanism where they release the thing. And you see
automatic release mechanism, everything was done on this vaccine was done. Now, Now, these drones are being used for sending iron tablets, for blood transfusion blood, and also paracetamol tablets, all kinds of things in the Northeast. We want to scale it up. It is being scaled up gradually, but again, unless there is pressure, we don't scale up things. This is a small cartoon which one of our young scientists made, that the virus has gone to one very remote island, that I will sit here and be comfortable and happy, and then you suddenly find a drone coming out there and the virus is a bit worried. That so this is, I pay tribute to about 28 of our scientists and technical officers who lost their lives during COVID, and it was much of their hard work that we were able to do this. Much of the women scientists of NIV and also headquarters, and also from the headquarters, all the various scientists controlling every different institutes and being able to get this delivered. So I thank you for your attention, because attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity.
Thank you, Bhargava. Thank you very much. Question hour session. I think there are a lot of youngsters here. There will be a lot of questions. But make sure, यार ये जरा lights जला दो भाई अब. Every question that you want to ask, identify yourself and make sure that the question that is short and sweet and crisp will actually get a good answer from the. So don't make your question very, very long. Be very focused in asking. And please raise your hand, identify yourself, and then ask. Yes, please.
Yeah, this vaccination-related clotting of blood was not seen with Covaxin. However, very small incidence of increased thrombogenicity was seen with the other vaccine. However, it did not lead to any clinical complications which are the issue that you're raising, that media is raising about young people getting heart attacks in India or strokes in India, is because we are genetically predisposed for these heart attack and strokes. They occur 10 years earlier in Indians. Number two, diabetes is more common in Indians. More than 10% of the population is diabetic. And number three, we have a sedentary lifestyle. Number four is chewing tobacco, which is responsible for these issues. Yes, social media has become more active, so we are coming to know of them more. There was no increase because of vaccination, clearly.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Where are you? Identify yourself, please. Can you identify yourself?
Hello, everybody. I am Deepak from JNU, doing some research on cancer biology. So, sir, indeed a great feat. You have explained it to us. I wanted to ask, how secure are we, I mean the Indian population, after the COVID vaccination drives? And yeah, this was it.
More than 98% of our population is vaccinated, has received at least one dose. More than 92% have received both doses. So we are secure from that perspective. If your question is talking about future pandemics, yes. So from that perspective, we have developed good immunity. We have also, a large population has taken the booster dose as well. We are talking about serious disease and death prevention by vaccination, not infection prevention by vaccination. In terms of the pandemic preparedness, if India is prepared for the next pandemic, yes, a whole of government meetings and reports have been made, and discussions are still ongoing. It has not been closed yet, and we are still discussing and pumping in a lot of money to improve our health infrastructure, whether it be diagnostic or treatment infrastructure, whether it be laboratory infrastructure. We are going to get 2 more BSL-4 laboratories in the country, and the foundation stone has been laid and the building started. We're getting several, we are mapping more than 40 of our BSL-3 laboratories. they are being further increased in numbers. All the 600 and odd medical colleges have now got a BSL-2 laboratory. So from that perspective, we are getting secure, and rest depend on you youngsters, how you will take our country forward and set up startups and set up what is needed for the country and take them forward.
Thanks for the wonderful talk. I am Kamal Rawal. I'm a professor and head in Amity University. I'm also adjunct faculty with Baylor College of Medicine. So our lab is working in the area of artificial intelligence, and we have made AI-based vaccine development platform which accelerate the vaccine development by at least 2x and cuts down the cost by at least 30 to 40%. So our research group, along with the US partners, have worked on variety of vaccine candidates. One of the area was Chagas disease, and second was our group has launched Corbevox, if you have heard about that. And that was manufactured by the Indian company biologically, and 100 million doses were sold in India and Southeast Asia. So first question is, are you including AI, artificial intelligence in these kind of future problems, the pandemics which we foresee in future which can happen, and do you have any plans to include AI? And
first of all, I congratulate you and your partnership with Baylor College, what you're trying to develop. I congratulate you for the same. Secondly, AI is a buzzword these days. Anything can be called AI. A lot of things where we collect a lot of data and utilize it can also be called AI. So what initially during the pandemic, no one thought of drones. We used it for the first time, probably in the world, to deliver vaccines. From that perspective, India is already ahead of many countries in terms of AI and using it. So I am sure many laboratories would be using that as a platform.
Thank you.
Sir, may I ask, this is not a question. I am Rajinikanth. I have been the part of Dr. Bhargava team. So first of all, my congratulations and appreciation for an excellent talk. And we all feel proud of being an Indian and developing our own indigenous vaccine. I would like to add that Dr. Bhargava has also written a book, Going Viral, and each one of you should read that book. It also describes about the development of the journey and the work done by the ICMR, including Dr. Bhargava team, led by Dr. Bhargava. Going Viral is a very interesting book written by Dr. Bhargava. And second thing which I would like to add, that Dr. Bhargava was the Man of the Year week special, which was brought out in the December 2021, and he was the Man of the Year. So thank you so much.
And one more thing, those of you who have not seen the film Vaccine War, I think it's time for you to see that on the OTT maybe. Yes, please, go ahead.
Sir, my name is Jitu. I am from Amity Institute of Public Health. Thank you, sir, for your great presentation. Yeah. Sir, I want to ask you that is India working on mRNA vaccine, or is it planning to do something about it?
Yes, India is working on mRNA vaccine. Several companies are working on it, and several institutes are working on it for not only for COVID, but also for other diseases, including maybe tuberculosis. Dengue also, yeah.
Hello, sir, very wonderful work and very great talk. And I'm Yogita Adlakha. I'm associate professor at Amity University, Noida. So my question is that what is your view on the new variant of COVID, that is JN.1? Do we need another booster for that, or other vaccine trials are going on against the variant of COVID-19?
I'm not at ICMR anymore. However, I do have a view. And the view is the following. This JN1 variant is not going to be a serious problem. We do not need a separate vaccination for it. However, the WHO has given clear recommendations that you do not need to do further clinical trials with newer antigens. You can go straight from these antigens and go ahead and develop the vaccine. There are certain Indian vaccines from Serum Institute which are working against and have been exported to the US, etc., which are XBB, etc., are all working against J1. They can be used. However, the writer is, you don't need that just now.
Thank you, sir.
So, answer it also as an immunologist. Yes, this JN.1 is more in the press rather than of any consequence. We already have good amount of heterogeneous immunity, both from the vaccine as well as from the natural infection as well. So nothing to worry. Enjoy life.
So,
Bharat Biotech to give universal vaccine development to that. All variants which what we are having in India, given to the Bharat Biotech now, they are working on this universal vaccine. And $19 million we gave to them in the CEPI. We gave the fund to them as a part of development of this universal vaccine. So that information to all of you.
Sir, I am Anurag from IIT Delhi. Sir, my question is rather controversial. At the time of COVID surge, there was a theory that the virus might have leaked from a lab. So I wanted to know your opinion on that.
I think my opinion is I don't have an opinion because I have not been to that lab. That is one. The second thing, I was not worried about whether it leaked or whether they made it. At that point in time, we were fighting the virus. So we were busy in that. The WHO had sent 2 teams to look into it, and they have given some report on that, which is again controversial. So we have still not reached a conclusion as such. However, I would like to add that several laboratories in many parts of the world, including China and Ukraine and India, are funded by the US also, including the Wuhan lab.
While others are thinking about a question, I just want to tell you one small story. I used to write a lot during the pandemic in Hindustan Times and all. We also brought out a book on host immunity and vaccines, which we are going to present to Dr. Balram Bhargava. You know, I used to walk around my house. My house is in Gurgaon. A lot of buildings are being made there for labor and all that. And I used to go and ask them, we are in a mess. What do you think the solution is going to be? And many of them will naturally keep quiet and all. One or two said, "Sab science se fayda hoga." This was remarkable. You know, the common man was talking about the usefulness of science. Science will find an answer to this beast that he talked about. It was really a beast. And I know when Balram had to go from AIIMS to ICMR, he was kind of double-minded because he is a busy cardiologist. He was not sure whether I should go over there or not. But then he had a few things in his mind. He wanted to talk about the lifestyle diseases because as we entered the 21st century, we are now actually indebted with the lifestyle diseases. He had never thought that he will have to deal with this beast. And really, the way they have dealt with, and you saw the whole story. This is just in glimpses in 1 hour. It's not very easy for him to sort of tell you everything that they did. And some of the things that you can see in the film as well, where when Nana, of course, is more aggressive, hot-headed. He's not that type. But then, how in a matter of months, India became a success story, and we went out many times. Many of us, everybody talked about the Indian vaccine, the Indian way of vaccination as well. This was remarkable. So I think with this, maybe the last question you have already asked.
Okay. Sir, with your permission, it is not the question. I also had the opportunity at that time to work and see Professor Bhargava working closely because I was representing the DRDO on COVID front at India level. I think what they did is, I think he has not explained. I think that cannot be explained in words. जो testing की बात है, that was the time when the agriculture lab of DRDO were testing at Leh. The conversion unit, how the scientists and the young people adapted, it is unparalleled. मैं ये कहूँगा, ये हिंदुस्तानी थे, spirit थी, बस कर दिया और हो गया. And sir, I salute you. Whatsoever you have told, is just the tip of the iceberg. What the India could do and what the ICMR could do. Thank you.
I was involved with the fertility control vaccine. That still is not available. So can we modify the protocol to make it next time like this?
यार ये टी टाइम में बात करेंगे. It's okay.
Again, one
Sir,
last thing.
yes, sir.
One last thing. So I also second Dr. Singh's opinion. I was that time Secretary TDP, and we in fact supported the Bharat Biotech in developing the vaccine. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, with this we come to the end of the lecture. Now there are a few things that we have to do to felicitate the speaker on your behalf, and I'm sure Dr. Ashutosh Sharma is also online. He is very keen to talk to you once we are at the tea time. Thank you, Bebe. That I wrote with a lot of
Before we conclude this enriching session, I would like to invite our Executive Director, Dr. Brajesh Pandey, to deliver the vote of thanks.
आज इतने बढ़िया जो टॉक है और जो पूरी जर्नी है उसके बाद थैंक्स कहना एक जस्ट फॉर्मेलिटी है, बट इट्स रियली ग्रेट ऑनर to have Professor Bhargava over here and listen from him how the vaccine were developed. I would like to thank all the INSA team, starting from my Deputy Executive Directors, Misra ji, Sunil ji, all the other people like Sudhanshu, Rotti, Seema Mandal, Madhavendra ji, Karthik, Rajput ji, all of them had a lot of work to make it happen. All the other people like Malhotra ji, Shruti, they have coordinated with Professor Bhargava, all the students, all the people to come over here. I also thanks our IT team for making it online. The recording is already available on YouTube, and anybody want to watch it again, you can watch it from there. So I will not take much time before tea. So tea and snacks is already waiting for you people. You can take it. Then you leave this INSA premises. Thank you so much for coming over here, attending this lecture. Thank you.